Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for joining us. We are joined by Dan, or other known as Hades Airsoft. Lance is here.
Hello.
But he's just having a.
I am not Mike.
He's not. He's hiding for some reason.
I'm not Mike. I am completely naked.
It's down. Yeah, it's down to me and Lance this evening.
Sorry.
Because. Yeah. Well, sorry. But Mike is currently dying apparently. So.
Well, he's not dying, is he? He's just got like a slight
he's got a bit
temperature.
of man flu.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with him, really.
And a little sore throat. So
yeah, he's got a boo boo. He's got a boo boo.
Yeah, we wish him all the best and hope he gets well soon because I don't like being in charge.
No. Well, it's a good job you're not then.
Yeah. So first of all, thanks very much for joining us again, Dan. I know we had to postpone it for a little while. But for the people that don't know, do you mind just giving us a quick background to yourself and how you are related to the airsoft community?
I can indeed. No, thank you very much for having me back. I was talking about it earlier, but it's been a little while,
Yeah,
probably over a year now, isn't it? So no, pleasure to be back. Thank you very much. So my name's Dan. I'm currently now in the airsoft world, known as Hades Airsoft, a former British Army for a number of years. And upon transitioning out of that life, I took the advice to check this sport out, this hobby out, and the rest, they say, is history. So it's been I've been out now for nearly 8 years, so that's so call it, say, 7 years of playing airsoft now. Airsoft milsim, live out in the Canary Islands, so that's where I got into the hobby. And doing all sorts now, YouTube channel, Instagram, stuff like that, content creation. So it's kind of just growing arms and legs at the minute, really.
Like we were saying earlier, weren't we? Like it's been a year, and in that year, you've done quite a lot recently, haven't you? Like when we last spoke, you were starting up training, like a training company. Did you say it was, or
no? Just kind of like off my own back. Like because everything out here is like team based. There are individual players, obviously, but teams are a big thing here. Like people join a team and can stay in it for years and years and years. And so there's obviously the regular airsoft side of life, but the milsim community out here is actually quite potent as well. So there's a company called eMilsim, and it's a club only, a members only club. Sorry. So one of the kind of like barriers to entry, if you want to call it that, is making sure that people have got some milsim experience before they are allowed in, because what we don't really want is people that aren't going to have the best time in it because they're not quite sure about what to expect and things like that. So aside from them running like the odd training day here and there, they have to have like at least 2 recognized milsim events under their belts. And they approached me to say, look, we because the way where we live, there's not always events going on or events that we necessarily recognize. Would you be interested in running like a training package over like 24 hours, like so 2 lots of 24-hour training events where you can then kind of sign these people off, pass or fail them, and if you agree with the if we agree with what you're saying, then they can join the club. So essentially we helped a couple of teams get in that way. So we organized, like I say, it's like 2 24-hour events where over the course of those two 24-hour events they learn pretty much or are introduced to a lot of what I consider anyway important going forward. Some of it's just endurance, some of it's just putting up with the hardships and sleeping outdoors and all that sort of good stuff, and the lack of sleep, but then a lot of it's actually quite technical to give them like a good start to then build on that. And some of them are actually carrying on their training. I will sometimes dip in and out just to help out on the odd day here and there, but most of what I've taught them they carry on actually using and training themselves, which is really good to see actually, because it means that it's stuck and it also means that they're actually enjoying it.
that's wicked.
Yeah, but kind of full circle really is the fact that I'm now part of that events company. It's called a board of directors. I think that's the translation from Spanish anyway. But that's the kind of state of things now. I'm one of that kind of group. There's 4 of us that are the leading this kind of club throughout the rest of the year. And we've got like quite a full calendar. We've got like 8 events this year. Nice. Some of them are just 1-day events. Some of them are 1 day, and then we've got like a big one towards the end of the year. We've just done our first one 2 or 3 weeks ago on the calendar. And then the second one that we're doing is actually on Tenerife, which is next door to where I live. And we're getting JBG over for that to deliver a CQB course. So going to be really good for them.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, some of the guys from Krios as well. So yeah, it's going to be like very new for them coming over and teaching to the Spanish players. But, you know, fantastic for us to be able to say, look, we're bringing over people with this sort of experience to help with the courses.
That's cool, man. That's cool.
Yeah,
I mean, I've never done any much training in like my early part of airsofting, and I always thought, oh, that's a bit much really to be doing training and stuff like that, you know. And it wasn't until I went on one of the JBG CQB courses, and I thought, although you're training, you're learning stuff, it's just the fun factor of it.
100%.
And the absolute blast that you have doing it, and you don't even realise you're doing training. It's literally that much fun. And ever since then, I've just been hooked to it. I mean, if I could do one of them every weekend, I'd just crack on. I mean, whether it be one of yours or one of JBG's, I mean, they are spot on. They are so much fun to do, and you do genuinely learn stuff. And you sort of, and I found in a way that you sort of appreciate the realism side of it as well, of what you're doing. You know, when you put that into practice, and you think this is what the real steel guys do, and you get a better appreciation for it. I mean, it's airsoft guns at the end of the day. It's toys at the end of the day,
exactly,
but you know what I'm saying with it,
you know. You've got to put it into perspective, and I think a lot of people like yourself there, the barrier to training, if we want to call it that, is quite difficult to get over sometimes, because people, rightly or wrongly, it depends what side of the fence you come down on it. But I think a lot of people think, well, you know, this is I do to have fun. I do this to unwind. Why would I want to put myself in that sort of situation? And that's fine. And for people that want it for that side of it, I wouldn't say it's mutually exclusive, first of all, but I get it. That's fine. But I think, you know, we normally enjoy things that we are good at. And if you can see yourself getting better at something throughout a day, then you actually start to have more fun. And so I think there is a way to argue that becoming better at something just for the love of improving, it's like any game or any hobby. You know, we all want to get better at things. We want to, you know, even if it's like if it's Call of Duty or whatever, you want, you know, you can have a fun game and lose, but it's normally fun when we win, isn't it? Let's be honest. So
absolutely,
So I don't think there's anything wrong in admitting that in a competitive sport, winning is fun. But again, you have to have it in perspective that you might not win and you can still have fun. But the whole training side of life, it can be, you know, there's so much, again, with the team-based aspect over here, there's so much more to it than just the individual skills and drills. It's about that team becoming better, about them having more fun as a group, and them being able then to go on events that they've got, you know, that they've set their sights on, that they want to, you know, they've got goals that they want to hit and stuff like that. And sometimes I find training is just as much fun as playing a game. Sometimes I'll be in the mood for one, in the mood for the other, and I think just go with that flow. But if you are one of those people that's perhaps a little bit skeptical about training, until you've tried it, you know, it's that, you know, don't knock it till you've tried it. Try it out. If it's not for you, it's not for you. You've lost a few pennies out the bank and a day of your time. You've not really lost anything. Try it out. If you're in the UK, JBG are obviously the people to see about getting that training done, mainly in that CQB environment, but they do all sorts of stuff. Check them out. Get booked on.
I mean, like you said then, I mean, I don't think anyone can sort of comment, say, oh no, training shit, I'm not going to bother doing it. Until someone's had a go at it, I don't think you've got a valid point to make until you've tried it. If you've tried it and said, no, I really didn't enjoy it, I think it's a waste of time. Well, absolutely fair enough. That's your opinion, totally. But if you've not tried it, then your opinion sort of doesn't really mean anything. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
100%.
Well, I was skeptical as hell before the first JBG one. I was like, is this really needed? But I thought, you know what? Like, I'm doing mil sims. I'm trying to do things as correctly as possible. So let's go along. And that was it. I was like, I've done more training events than I have done anything else.
I have
so far.
Three. I think I've done now 2 or 3.
And genuinely, it has made my gameplay better. Like,
it has. I mean, the first event, obviously, JBG severely injured me, which I wasn't best pleased about. But you know, there we go. That's the story for another day. But I mean, one gentleman in Little Neek feels like a super fun alternative to a skirmish or smaller event, but you're learning at the same time. I'm addicted. So there you go. Yeah, if I had to choose a JBG or a Hades Airsoft training day over a skirmish, I'd be choosing training all day long.
I think because when you rock up to a skirmish, it's like anything. You're rolling the dice, so to speak. You know, and what I found in the UK was how far away people lived from the sites, and I've only played let's say 3 times in the UK if we include last weekend, which I'll come on to in a second. And like there were people there saying I've got up at 4 a.m. to be here, and I've driven 4 hours, or they have to get a Premier Inn or a travel lodge to make a weekend out of it. And I think to myself, like, that, what if you have a bad day? Like, how are you gonna, like, if it could be anything, couldn't it? It could be you have a little tiff with somebody, or you hurt yourself, or you just don't have the best day. Like, the effort and the time that people put in. Like, we live on an island here that's relatively small, and people moan about driving 40 minutes to a site, let alone 4 hours. And I just think, like, the
Yeah.
times I've played in the UK, it really put it into perspective how lucky we have it here to have like such a big airsoft and milsim community in such a small package, relatively speaking.
Absolutely.
Whereas in the UK, like you say, if you're rocking up to a skirmish, that's a real investment in your time and money that could go potentially not your way. Whereas with training, if you've got good instructors, even if you're not having the best day, they'll try and, sometimes we will get people, whether it's on mine or on JVG's, where, somebody's struggling with something. And even just this last weekend that was on one, I saw that people were having a little bit of a tough time with it. Well, really 1 or 2. And I just rolled it all back for everybody. You're not singling those 2-3 people out. Everybody takes a step back. Everybody hasn't made that conscious decision to single those people out, but they all get the benefit from it. And then you see those people, like the little chats that they have afterwards, like overhearing stuff like, oh, that was really good, I'm going to use that, or this, that, and the other. Like, it is really rewarding, because people might go on these events, especially JVGs, where it's like, I'm a guest. They could be like, well, I haven't signed up for this guy, like, what's this guy on about? And then actually towards the, certainly after the first lesson, when they came back to me after lunch, like they were even more pumped, and they were even more ready for more. Whereas the last one I did with them at Gloucester Prison, again probably about a year ago, there was like twice the number of people on it. Really great event, don't get me wrong, like the guys made it work, but it was, you could, having to do 5 of the same lesson it was a long day, 5 groups of 10 or whatever it was. And then on this one I just felt that, and so their energy really started to drop over the day. Like after the first 1 or 2 rotations, you could tell people were getting a little bit ratty and stuff like that. Not because of anything that we were doing wrong, but just because there was a lot to do. There was a hell of a lot to get through, and you want to give them the most for their money, like the most bang for their buck, especially on that course, because it was explosive method of entry. But you want to give them, so sometimes you can bombard them with stuff. Like I find myself doing that with some of my stuff over here, where you really want them to walk away with everything, but actually it's about letting them walk away with a package that they kind of feel comfortable, they haven't been bombarding. So I felt this time around, certainly the fact that there was less people on that course, I had a better time as an instructor, and I could relax a little bit, and I could have more fun, and make it a bit more light-hearted, and then but consequently flick the switch when we needed to, and sort of put them through their paces. So
for sure. It's very similar to when we done our first intro to milsim. We sort of like picked sort of 4 categories, if you like, and it was almost just like for each group there's a little window into what to expect and what to do and what to experience, rather than just like we're covering this entire work pack, and you have to absorb all this energy and the information that's coming at you and go away and remember everything, and then when you come back you still remember it all. So it just gives them little
it ain't happening, is it?
It's just custom picking little bits, like little bits of exciting stuff, this, that, and the other, bit of theory, bit of this, bit of that, and then just sort of like pickpocketing what you want to teach, sort of thing.
Yeah, like the one thing that I really took from it was, like, especially on the first one, was when I think it was Charlie and Alex basically went along the line and was like,
Jack,
Jack. Like, why have you got that on your belt?
Yeah.
And then you kind of go, because it looked, he's like, because it looks cool. And he's like, we'll take it off then.
Yeah.
Because it's just and literally after that event, I had half the amount of pouches, but I still had all the equipment that I needed.
Yeah.
And it was just simple things like that.
I think that's something important to do. Like, you've got to have like the right tact with it, because you can come across perhaps not in the best light with that. But I think the way they do, they will get people to jump up and down, are they rattling and stuff like that. And if you see somebody with something that is literally just a cut and paste of what they've seen on the telly or on the internet, then, and especially if they then struggle with it, you just have to have that a bit of tact to say, like, why do you need that? Like, what is it doing for you? Do you really need it? Like, how much does it weigh? How much did it cost? Because it all costs money at the end of the day. Like, and if you can just kind of like reprogram people's brains just to be like, well, should I buy that? You know, or should I have it on here? I've got pouches downstairs that as a pouch on its own, like I'd like, I can't find it. I love it as a pouch. It looks really good, but I can't justify it being anywhere and doing a job. And it's just sat there in a drawer because I can't. I've bought it because I like the look of it and I like what it does, or whatever. But actually, it's not. I've tried it. It doesn't work. It's extra weight. It gets in the way. So it's a good thing to. It's a good thing to cover. You just got to, you just got to know what your know your audience, I guess.
It's like me with me. I've got the dangler on the front of mine, but it's the Cry groin guard with the Paraclete dump pouch on the front of it. I just find that rather than I have got a little tuckaway one on my left side, but I just find that one there, especially for CQB, so it's got a big old front rip lid to it, and I can just tuck that inside and literally change your mags. I can literally just almost just drop it straight into it, and I'm back. I'm not trying to fuck about trying to put it in around here. So
I've just moved over to the sword one. And I was really skeptical of it at first because I'm used to the on the belt, and I thought, well, muscle memory is going to be a pain in the ass to try and reprogram that, but it's so intuitive. Like, it's big enough because I'm always, if you're leading a mission or a scenario or something, there's always bits of paper and radios, and there's always notepads and pens and stuff like that, and it just all goes in there. Or I sort it out later on. All goes in there, and then, like you say, that mag coming down almost in a straight line.
Yeah, absolutely.
That is, I was a little bit. I haven't got the groin protector thing. I was a little bit concerned about that, but with like MWS mags, but I don't know why, but it doesn't actually bother me. Like, so, I found they kind of, it hits on my thighs rather than in the center, which was going to be a problem. So that was good. That was the first thing I tested because I thought, I've got this all the way from Australia. It wasn't that expensive, but it took time to get it. I was like, what if I just get schwacked in the knackers straight away? Like, that's a complete waste of time. But so far so good. So I do definitely find different schools of thought, different styles. You can't always, somebody will have something because they just like it, or it works for them, but I find that most people are willing to take on board a professional kind of opinion, I guess.
Absolutely. I certainly changed some bits and bobs from doing the JBG first course. Anyhow, I had a lot of ones when I ripped my fucking calf muscle off the back of my leg from doing a relay race thing. I had lots of time to look at my kit for the rest of the day while everyone else is having fun. I just had packs of ice around my leg.
It's a tough one, isn't it? Because, like, going back to like when we sort of try and get so much information across to people, like, you want people to get the best experience. And that was just, from what I heard anyway, that was just like an injury. But like, you'll have different people's fitness levels, you'll have different people's endurance levels. There'll be like medical conditions to be aware of. So it can be a real challenge sometimes getting like a syllabus that is not inclusive, but like it can be delivered to everybody broadly.
Sort of covers all the bases for every style of player and ability of player.
And because I just came back from one of their events this weekend at the jail. I only knew how to pronounce it when I walked in, and I see it written on the board because I've been struggling with that for a couple of weeks now. We delivered one there, I think I don't know sort of how to put it, but like I'm sort of blanking now, but that was an interesting event because I think the way to get everything across to everybody in the best way possible, make it worth their time, make it worth their effort. That was a little bit of a challenge because like I could have a lesson plan that I make up here. We didn't see that site until the day of. Where are we going to do it? Where are we going to put it? Is it going to work? All that sort of good stuff. And I think like trying to put people through their paces in a fun way is actually quite a difficult thing to manage, I think.
Was with the Gale event with JBG, was that a mixed bag of abilities? Was it all newcomers to Milsim or CQB, or was it quite seasoned players that you sort of knew that they knew their stuff, like an entry level sort of thing?
Yeah, so I think there was about 23 or 24 people on it, and I think there were some people that had been on multiple courses. I think there was one lad that had been on like 4 courses, but and then there was Big Matt that had been on like every one, and he really, as a fellow student, was able to big for me as an instructor was a good demo troop for his fellow students. That was
is that Big Matt as in Big Matt, big tattoos
Matt.
Matt, with the AK gas blowback.
Yeah,
he's an absolute weapon of a man.
When that video comes out, he took a Saiga 12 gas, and I got that just like that. I just see a group of BBs glowing coming towards me in this dark hallway. But he was very nice afterwards. He was like, I was like, yeah, I'm fine.
Yeah, that's the only problem with him. When he aims, he's at head height for everyone else.
Not me. I'm all right. I'm all right.
Yeah. I think I was on a knee, so he really did want to hit me. I'm pretty sure. He
what a bastard! Wait till I see him. I'll give him what for, mate.
Like his POV on that event, I've seen some of it, and yeah, he worked very hard. Like he was cutting around like 10 men. So no, but we actually split them down into beginners and advanced. So normally we don't, or I don't normally do that, but I know JBG do sometimes if the split is even enough, which for this it was. And so with the beginners, that was I had the beginners first, so I just sort of reverted to beginner level, which is fine because that's really the stuff I deliver mainly on the range for them is designed to be progressive. So you'll start on just really, really basic stuff, and by the end of it, you'll hopefully put everything in the last exercise to everything you've learned you'll put together in one whole thing. So we had them for an hour, really, really good, really, really positive, and then they said, right, you've got the advanced lot, and they burnt through everything I had prepared for them in no time at all. So we ended up doing like a kind of like a little competition. So we had like 4 of the targets, like the freestanding targets. I mean, I think Andy, you said you've played there, haven't you? So that there's like a central, almost like a central area that's got a bunch of cars in it and a load of those little water sort of pallet things.
The IBCs.
That's it. Yeah. So we just sort of like hid them in there, and then got them out of the way and just put them in twos. And they just as a drill were just moving through like a dynamic range, and we just timed them. And on that, that was really, really interesting. And that, because hopefully I'll try and get 2 videos out, because there was just so much content that people like Dan and Caitlin, they were absolutely squadding just getting all this content.
Yeah,
amazing, really.
They work so hard, don't they?
Yeah, there's like 300 gigs on a hard drive. Like it's just non-stop. So that'll be really interesting to jump on that edit soon. But the that competition was interesting because the first few that went through had like respectable times. It was like 1 minute 30, 1 minute 20, and good points to work. And not that they did anything wrong. They just were fairly methodical. They're moving from cover to cover and stuff like that. All good stuff. No, I can't say anyone did it right or wrongly. But then it came round, and Matt went last with a lad that was, I think he must have had some experience because he was in the advanced group. They did it in like 34 seconds. They just blitzed it. And as the groups we got to the end of the groups, the times were coming down. It was coming down to like 40 seconds, and in the end, Matt and his little sort of battle buddy, they did it in like 34 seconds. And what was really rewarding for me was we're teaching like close quarters marksmanship, and because the whole point of, well, not the whole point, but one of the points of close quarters marksmanship is so that if you're suppressing that position as you're advancing along, you're kind of like creating your own cover in a way. Is the kind of the way I like to kind of instead of moving from cover to cover, you're keeping the enemy's head down so you can advance freely. And the ones that did the best just advanced in the open in the formation that we taught, and at the end of it, you've got people that have done it one way, fine, still did a good job, but then you've got the other people that have done it the way you've just taught it, and they get it in like a minute, a minute quicker. So that was, I didn't plan for it to go that quickly, and I didn't plan for it to have that that kind of I didn't plan for it to be that kind of underlined, but it was a really good sort of teachable moment, because you're like, well, look, there's kind of a method to it, there's a reason we do it.
Well, you're going to be on the JBG live on Instagram tomorrow evening talking about the goal event as well, aren't you? So we'll throw a link up on that on our socials as well.
Cool.
So if people wanted to have another chat with you, obviously go over. Are you doing it on your Instagram or on JBG's?
I think last time was on Charlie's, but his battery ran out, so it'll be on one of ours. It'll be one.
Badmin.
Mate, I'm not sure yet. One or the other.
Perfect example of badmin right there.
Yeah,
we were
well,
just getting
we'll
into
throw
it
it
as
up
well.
as well.
Yeah,
So
no, but it'll be
yeah,
on one or the other. I think most people, if you're following one of us, you're following the other. So but yeah, no,
oh,
I think that
definitely,
was
yeah.
useful. I think we want to kind of do a little bit more of them because obviously because of where I live and the distance, I can't
Hmm.
just hop in the car and drive those 4 hours and be places. So again, it's a way for people to interact. And sort of get some questions out there, or yeah, just a bit of interaction really, and just kind of
Yeah,
be
yeah,
there and
definitely.
community facing, I guess.
Well, we've
Nice.
had a handful of questions come in,
Cool.
and
Yes.
comments. So Marky Mark said that obviously this is when we were talking about like why do the training. It's the same as a golfer going to see a golf pro to improve their golf. Though golf is a great way to spoil a good walk.
I'm terrible at it,
Um,
so if you're good at
yeah.
golf, then yeah, fantastic.
Mike Frazier is obviously crawling out of
Chip
his own bed.
chipping
Yeah,
in.
is chipping in. So he's asked Dan, whilst some aspects are what's that?
Comparative.
Comparative.
Yeah.
What's the best lesson an airsofter can learn from real steel training, as well as when a lesson that real steel could learn from airsoft? Oh
Yeah,
right, okay,
that's a really good question. So, the first
You
bit,
do realise he's AI'd that.
yeah,
it's pretty good. So, we'll benefit of the doubt. Benefit of the doubt. I think for the airsoft, that's probably the hardest side of the question. So I'll tackle that first. Um, I think going back to like your kit, like having the right kit
hmm
for what you're doing, and again, it kind of comes down to like what's your goal here? Is it just to have fun? Is it? It's got. I think the best thing to do is figure out, and sometimes that does take time, but figure out what your goal is. Have fun, competitive, get better, be the best, whatever that is, and then try and dial down on one of those subjects, and then kind of just expand it from there. So if your goal is to get better, then I think it's your practice. It's just repetition. So if you are lucky enough to get on one of these courses and we teach you something, or there's training aids on the internet or whatever, figure it out. And then just practice it relentlessly. Just stand there.
hmm
I say to people, like, just put your rig on. If it's just your plate carrying your belt, do it in front of the mirror. Do it in your pants. Do it while you're watching the telly. Whatever you're doing, just repeat. Just rinse and repeat. Rinse and repeat. So repetition you can't go wrong with, but you obviously have to make sure that you're repeating the right thing. So that's where we come back to like paid courses are probably the best way to get the right information. So although it's a bit of an open question, I think repetition is the key there. But I think probably more specifically, just things like what we would call reacting to enemy fire. So like just as soon as you come under contact, because let's be honest, if the enemy's already got the drop on you, then you are reacting. You're no longer being proactive. You're being reactive. So the thing that I do and what we've all been taught in the army is just to fire a couple of rounds in their general direction. If you hit them, great, but just get 2-3 rounds off in their direction. Look for some cover, get into that cover, and then start peeking out, and start laying down like the deliberate fire. So that's something that I always teach because I think that you can apply in any scenario, whether it's CQB out in the open, right? I'm now getting fired at. Let's give them, and sometimes if you teach that to a whole team and it's followed up with them sort of like shouting, contact front, contact right, contact left, the psychological kind of like, oh, Jesus, these guys mean business. Like if you can get a team of 8 or 10 people to all react the same way and get, each fire 2 or 3 rounds. So, put essentially 30 rounds down range in one big kind of burst, then you get them shouting. You're like, Jesus, that they know what they're doing. That's a really good
yeah,
a good thing to learn. And then with real steel from airsoft, it's time behind a stock. It's just time behind a stock. Like in the army, you might not see your weapon for a week or 2 weeks. You might not do. People might think that people in the army are constantly having those weapons in their hands and training and doing things. It's really not the case. So the good thing with airsoft, there were a couple of rifles reservists on the course as well, which did a really good job, and they both had MWSs for. I think one of them's a player. I think one might be more of
hmm
a range shooter. But again, for drills and stuff like that, he's got hold of an MWS. If I'm remembering that correctly, and it is just time behind a stock. It's getting more familiar with the platform that you're using. So if mainly for America, if you're a range shooter or whatever like that, and you can fire a real steel version of something, and then in your back garden fire an airsoft version of it with the added safety bonus, all those drills are transferable. And so I think for airsoft, it's cheaper because it's cheaper than real ammunition, and it's a hell of a lot safer. So it's time behind a stock. What do you have to adjust for? The recoil mainly, but if you're accustomed to real steel recoil, then you'll know that when you're firing the airsoft version, even if you are firing gas blowback, okay, this is obviously a walk in the park compared to the real recoil. So it's just a case of switching yourself back over to the real steel mindset. But again, it's like anything with repetition, you'll smash that. So yeah,
you'll get better eventually.
I mean, we spoke about it a couple of weeks ago on the show. Actually, it came up regarding like how scalable real steel elements would be to airsoft, and I think we was briefly talking about thermal scopes and stuff.
Yeah,
like the one I've got, it's visual up to a kilometre. You can see a thermal target.
Wow.
And it's like, well, and this is where we sort of started speaking about it being like a massive force multiplier, someone having thermal, when your engagement distance are at a maximum, let's be real, 60, 70 metres at a push. Something like that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's also the things where you say reacting to effective enemy fire. If they've got the jump on you at sort of 35, 40 metres, there's a good chance there's going to be a lot more of a contact and a hit. In that time, compared to a real steel situation where the engagement distances are a lot further drawn out.
Bigger. Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So if you're getting dialed in on engagements that are massively reduced and you're successfully winning that battle, winning that firefight, transferring that to a real steel situation, well, I can only imagine is only going to benefit you for your sharpness and being able to get into cover and this, that, and the other. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%. Because like even if you are playing in like in a woods and forest kind of area or an open field, like say those engagement distances are so massively reduced, you have to be so much quicker at everything. And so if you are lucky enough to survive that initial, being contacted, then you are again, like just the way airsoft players are set up, like they have to be quicker, not quicker, but they have to be quick in that situation, because like you say, that engagement range is, I'd say broadly, it's probably 10 times, I guess maybe 5 times as short, maybe. So if you think we're trained to shoot out to 300 meters with your normal individual weapon. So kind of extrapolate that and think, well, that's 300 meters that these guys can fire out to and hit something. Well, so maybe between 30 and 60 meters. So you could be between 5 and 10 times the distance reduced over that distance.
Absolutely.
So you just got to be quicker. You just have to be quicker.
Yeah. I mean, Woodland's my favourite. I mean, I've got the luxury of having a private site, which is not an airsoft site. It's a private lump of woodland, 90 acres of woodland that I'm allowed to use.
Yeah.
And in the peak of summer, like at the peak of the point where the vegetation can't grow any better, I mean, it essentially turns into a CQB site. You have got some long engagement distances, but then it is like undergrowth, jungle. It's like Vietnam in sections. It's got pine woodland. It's a real mixed bag of different densities of woodland. It's a fantastic place.
I think that's a really good point you've raised there, because I had I got my own podcast on the channel. It's not as professional as this, but like some of my videos.
Professional.
He called us professionals. Did you hear that?
Whoa. I haven't got anything like this. So
there's a soundbite.
Yeah, that's it.
So no, I've got plans to do a few more they're videos, but they're videos that you can obviously listen to if you want it in the background. But they're the ones that going forward, there'll be a lot of overlays on them as well, so you can watch it as a video. But I had Jared from Hackle Media on that a few months ago now, and it didn't make it in the initial video because we talked for ages, and I really had to be brutal and edit a lot of it out just for the sake of time. It's still like 45 minutes long. We had a real good chat, and we were pretty much saying the same thing at one point, that people think that CQB is all about buildings and pine doors. It's literally called close quarters battle. So those close quarters can easily be in a woodland where, if you are in that engagement distance, you're in close quarter battle. That's just the long and the short of it. So if you've got, like this woodland where instead of, walls and walls and bits of cover, hard cover, you've got, trees and bushes and all the rest of it, and dead ground and all that good stuff. Well, you're in a close quarter battle environment. Yes, it's still a FIWAF, fighting in woods and forests, but you are in a close quarters battle environment, regardless of what it actually looks like. It's the distance.
So it's PWAF CQB.
Basically, yeah.
Yeah.
So I think actually, like FIWAF is probably like one of like. Don't get me wrong, commanding and just fighting in a CQB environment is difficult, and commanding it again. The scenario that JBG put us through this last weekend, that took 2 hours to get from one end of the jail to the other, and that was hard work. And I say that in the debrief to the lads, like and the lasses, or a few girls on there. It was just hard graft, absolutely, really tiring. Amazing fun, but by the end of it, it was
you're
a
blowing.
big out. Yeah. So, but the kind of I don't know, the I was trying to figure out the best way to kind of get the point across. Like the field craft in a FIWAF environment, you have to be on point. Like your kit has to be squared away. You have to move correctly. Anything can give you away. Where like normally there's a saying like if they're close enough to see that, you're in trouble anyway. Yeah, fine. But anything can, like a little reflection on something in a FIWAF environment. Like once we get out of the urban environment, like the human brain really dials very quickly into a natural environment, if that makes sense. Like that's that's where we come from at the end of the day, and we dial ourselves very quickly back into that, and we're very quick at spotting something that's out of place, whether it's visually, whether it's the sound. It could even be a smell. Like we're not known for having the best sense of smell compared to like animals, dogs and stuff like that. But if you've got somebody like in an airsoft field that like they've just had a shower that morning, they're all perfumed up and they've got fresh kit on that's been had fabric softener and stuff go through it, they're going to smell out of place. So there's all these different things to it's probably a bit of an extreme example, but there's all these things to be aware of, like, and in a FIWAF environment, just the coordination, like commanding people, like being able to hear them but not see them necessarily, like, and you're often in kind of formations that are difficult to control anyway. It's people think that CQB quite rightly is one of the worst environments to operate in, but FIWAF is just as bad and in some ways worse, really.
Fighting in woodlands sometimes, like,
I mean, I love it. I mean, it's the best.
The person next to you disappear. Yeah, but you could be literally having someone like 2-3 meters away from you.
Yeah,
and then you'll be communicating, and then literally you take a step forward, and that's it. They're gone. And you're like, the fuck.
I mean, some of the bracken. I mean, it's not hard for anything to be taller than me, for Christ's sake. But I mean, some of the bracken over there is literally you're going through a corridor.
It's crazy. And like your points of reference are all going to be very similar. Like a tree to my front. Like, cheers, thanks for that. That's
nailed that one. Nice.
Exactly. One. Whereas in an urban environment, you can be a lot more specific about what that point of reference is. Whereas in a FIWAF environment, like, it's so hard and under that pressure to get out an accurate target indication. Like, what is it? My 12 o'clock. Well, that's not the same as my 12 o'clock, is it? And all these sorts of things that people. In a rich environment like the jail, for example, there's plenty of stuff to kind of dial in into, but in a FIWAF environment, it's just green, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, I found that a lot. That's like with the clock ray method. Like in an urban environment, where you've got building situations around you, you can establish a 12 o'clock and sort of maintain that through the course of like a movement, if you like. But when it comes to FIWAF, that can be changing, because you could suddenly find yourself coming across a larger, more prominent feature. So, right, 12 o'clock is now X. Now it's now Y. Do you know what I mean? And everyone's got to be aware of that.
Yeah, and there's no straight lines to follow, so it's not like you can pick an axis and generally like use those straight lines to follow it in that FIWAF environment. That and you might, like you say, you might have to make a detour around an obstacle if you can't go over it or through it. So your axis is immediately off before just getting back on that kind of line of attack is going to be tricky. So it's, people underestimate it. Like we have got forests here, but they're not like British forests, so they're quite widely spaced. So although I have played in a forest like that, I'm quite keen to play in a one of those wooded areas where it's that dense, where it is that kind of mashup of CQB-ish and
I mean we're talking like, it's obviously you're doing like a daytime drill. As soon as night falls on a forest, that's a complete game changer then. And we spoke about that, about how improving your Milsim event is like taking notes of things during the day when you're on a patrol, which you wouldn't consider a hazard. But then when night comes, if you've not remembered that there's a ditch running for X amount of meters to the left of that trail, and then you take a plunge you know, it's only going to end badly for some people. So
yeah,
it's
100%.
it's completely switching the focus.
Yeah, it works the other way as well. So like if you're doing like a recce at night, like I can guarantee you most of that in come daytime is not as usable as you thought it was. Or if you're setting up a position at night time, by the time the sun comes up, you're like, right, we are close to them. Like we this
Oh my
looked
god,
like,
yeah, absolutely.
this looked like a better idea at night, you know, or things just, you know, things are a lot, everything, you know, shrinks in, you know, everything's closer, everything's, you know, so there's definitely two sides to the same coin there. Like,
well, we've done it where we've set up at night and
we did it.
I've got a brilliant position, and then
Machiavellian
daylight comes, and you go, oh, actually, I'm in the middle of like I'm in the open.
Well, it's like Machiavellian. It was a good OP. You know, it was a good laying up point. Shall I say the LUP? We dug in. It took us like 2 3/4 hours to basically hollow out this big briar patch or bramble bush to get 4 of us in there with all our kit.
Yeah.
Did it nice and sneaky, quietly. You could hear the occasional voice, like which we thought was in the distance. It wasn't until daybreak where 2 of us peeled off to try and find an OP, which we couldn't dig in an OP anywhere, so we had to try and find something that was existing, which was a huge pile of tyres, which we managed to hollow out, and sort of get in there and be able to look through a small tyre, and we had a perfect arc in front of us, and literally our LUP was within 25 metres of this building that we were listening out on, watching and reporting intel back. So we were a lot closer to the enemy than what we wanted to be.
Than you thought, I think
it was good. It was good. It was brilliant, you know, because it just added that element of like,
you can get we could get caught here. You can get like 2 sites out of 1 really, because a site will play differently at night than it will in the daytime. So you kind of got 2 for 1 there. And a lot of the mil sims here take place at night, not solely at night, but obviously if you're on a 3-day mil sim, like a fair amount of it's going to take place at night. So it's good to get people into that kind of routine of just trying to stay switched on or keep them. Just like dialed into what they're doing at night, because they're not used to, you know, being up all night or, you know, sleeping in shifts and all that sort of stuff.
It's tough. It is tough. It's tough.
Yeah,
I mean, it's tough on seasoned mil simmers, because I mean, how many seasoned mil simmers go mil sim every weekend and are used to that sort of shit? You know, no one is. Everyone gets tired, regardless of how many. I mean, I've been to loads of mil sims, but you're still on your fucking belt buckle at 3 o'clock in the morning when you haven't had any sleep and you've been going for like 19, 20 hours.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Everyone's knackered.
The biggest tip for milsim for me is just be good at like being resilient. Like just be robust, be resilient, and try. And then and even now, I'll be like, what am I doing? Like, look at the time. Look, you know. And for me, like when
stood at a sanger, just seeing shit that's not there.
when you can see like people living a normal life in the distance, like the lights of a town or cars going by, like they're not. Yeah, they're having a better time than I am right now. Like, but just remember why you're there and why you're doing it, and probably
we've paid to be miserable.
We're paid to be there. We're paid to do it. Not being paid to. I've paid to do it. So
I get him. Why would you want to sleep? You know, you'll get your money's worth.
Exactly. Because you do see it though. You will see people on a mil sim just like cream in and be like, "Nah, I'm going to bed," and you're like, "All right, well." If that's fine, if that's what you want to do, that's fine. But you have paid to be here and do this, so like perhaps that's what you should try and do.
I mean. On that Machiavellian, the first event we did, and we then after we got told by the OC to pull out of our LUP, sort of like break camp, pull out, pull back, reset a harbour area up back with like the main force, and I was sort of took it upon myself to do a bit of a stag, which is looking at the right hand side of this field, just on the edge of the wood block. And I must admit, I was a bit nodding dog, and I must have just shut my eyes for like 5-6 seconds, and I opened them back up and was looking through my thermal, and all of a sudden I had like 12 heat signatures in front of me, like about 50 metres out. I was like, oh fuck, I've just opened my eyes, got on the radio, and it was just gobbledygook. I just hadn't processed it, and I was trying to do all these things like being half asleep, and I was like, right, start again, reset.
The reaction time just increases.
It's mad, but then you wake up because the adrenaline kicks in, and you're like, whoa, I'm frosty again.
You're awake then, for sure. No,
it's like,
thank God they were friendlies.
James Underwood from Violent Events has said sending people to set up an OP at night just for them to go oh fuck in the morning is a guilty pleasure of his.
Challenge accepted.
there's bits and pieces I'll do that I'll make no bones about it. It's just for my, like, I'll get them to do things and it's just for my enjoyment. Like, I just will be like, look, I've had to put up with it. You're now going to put up with it, and I'll take some personal enjoyment from it and just be like, well, you know, that's what you're here for. You gotta get amongst it and experience all sides of it. You know, and I'll make no bones about it that sometimes I'll do things just for the hell of it, and yeah.
Tough shit.
Get through
really?
it. Yeah, get through it. It's good. Get through it. For sure.
So we've got another question from typical Asians Scarecrow, which is an amazing name.
Love that.
What was the most rewarding thing from the goal event for you as an instructor, and vice versa? What was the most challenging thing?
Challenging thing, most rewarding thing, I would say, is seeing people enjoy their time there, if I'm being honest, because like I say, the beginner and the advanced group, they enjoyed it in different ways. So like the advanced group, it's easy to, again, going back to, you normally enjoy things you're good at, so they conversely, they saw themselves having, you know, they were being successful, they were then having fun. That's great. For the beginners, it was the fact that they were getting better, and they were seeing the, you never know how somebody's going to react to being told what to do, or told how to do it, because, you know, there can be all different skill sets on these things, whether you split them into beginner and advanced or not. So especially in a mixed group, and there were, even amongst the beginners, there definitely were some different skill levels. So the ability for them to take on board positively what was being said, I thought was really rewarding. So it meant that I was doing something right, because obviously if you're being told something, how to do it, and you're like, well, that's not how I do it, or that's not the way I've been told to do it by somebody else, so then that's fine. And I did say to them, like, you know, the whole point here is to take away from this what you want to at the end of the day. So like, if you want to bin it all off completely, then do that. If you want to put it all into practice, do that. But rewarding for me is people being able to do things they didn't think they were capable of, and just seeing them, like, just that they'll like I say, they'll be huddled amongst themselves. They'll be, oh, did you see that? Oh, I didn't expect that to be that hard, but you did it though, didn't you? Yeah, well, I did do it, but you know, and all these just little chats, and you just sort of like keep an ear out and keep an eye open for them, and that was rewarding to see them just having a good time, just enjoying what they were doing, and the fact that they're getting better at it was just, you know, doubly enjoyable. And then I think the most challenging thing was that scenario, for sure. It was just difficult because there was like 20 odd people, 23, 24 people to try and account for and do it. You know, it's pressure for me, because like, it's all fine and well being a veteran, it's all fine and well having done a few bits here and there, but that doesn't mean I'm going to get this right this time. Like, doesn't mean this is going to work, or the plan that I have might be too real still for it to translate into airsoft. It could be that I could have the best plan in the world, but actually the execution of it doesn't go the way that I want it to, and the whole plan falls apart. Like, you've got to be accountable as a leader for what you're doing. And for me, it was a challenge, because all these people have been through the same training in the morning, and I think actually perhaps one of the other really rewarding things was when I was in the scenario, I could hear different people you could tell that they were putting into practice what Charlie and Alex had taught them on the CQB side of life, and on the range. It's easy for me to see what range aspects they were putting into practice, but when you could hear them you know, talking to each other in those kind of like the phrases and the different, you know, putting into practice what they'd learned, that was also rewarding. But the challenge was, you know, getting a plan that worked, getting a plan that was not going to break the event organizers idea of the way this is going to go, because that's the other thing. Like, when you're organizing, the participants will break your event. Like, just, there's no way around it. They'll find a way to, you know, they'll think they're being clever, they'll find a way around something, or they won't go down that alleyway when you've got an ID set up or a contact. They'll go the other way. So I was like, well, I don't want to break their event. I don't want to break these people. I don't want to break myself. I want to enjoy it as well. And actually having all those different things to worry about at the same time was a real challenge. And I think after the first sort of maybe 15 or 20 minutes, like, I just managed to tune a lot of it out, and it's a testament to how real it was that it felt like a lot of the pre-deployment training scenarios that I went in through before Afghanistan, like it felt like those kind of, like, there was lots of random stuff going off. There was people like NPCs wandering about, and there was things that I wasn't expecting, even though I had a brief, kind of role in, on one of the calls in planning some of the aspects of it. It was a real surprise to me, and the fact that we got through it and we did kind of beat the scenario, like it didn't feel that was scripted. It felt that we really had to work for it. So at the end of it, it's what, Wednesday now. I'm still buzzing from it. That was Saturday, so it was super rewarding, like for both sides of it. Yeah.
Oh, brilliant.
All good.
Yeah, lovely. He also then goes on to ask, which I think you've kind of covered, was there anything you found interesting to see when it comes to teaching drills? I think you kind of covered that as well.
Yeah. I think you'll always come away like with more data for yourself to be like, well, they responded well to that. I might tweak that next time. I might do more of that, less of that. It's difficult as well, because otherwise you'll condition yourself to react to the last group of people, whereas you have to be broad enough to be able to deliver to any given group of people at any time, really, that put themselves in that position. So I think it's always interesting to come away and go, like, especially as like as the hype starts to sort of come down off it a little bit, like drill down into what really I could have done better, because there's always work away, but it's easy to come away thinking I absolutely nailed that, but there's plenty of stuff to work on. So interesting for me is to then try and figure out how I become better as a teacher, as an instructor, and then how do I become better with in that scenario base. Although I'm really, really happy with the performance, there's always going to be stuff to work on. So for me, it gets more interesting as time goes on, because then I start to drill down into it and be a bit more critical perhaps of myself, because the hype starts to wear off, so to speak.
Yeah, but you're learning as well. Like
100%, yeah.
100%. Like you're passing along your knowledge, but as you said, it's not something that you do regularly. So you're going to learn better ways of teaching someone who's
presenting the course, isn't it? And
100%.
Yeah, so you're always going to learn.
If you did it every day as your full-time job, then it would be different. But I might be put in this role, especially as a guest, once or twice a year. And then there might be stuff that I do off my own back, or people that get in touch with me here. Oh, we'd really like a range day, or we'd really like a this day, or a CQB day, or a that day. So you don't always have the muscle memory to deliver it. Luckily I managed to practice this a couple of times, and that really means how long it takes me, what are the common points people are gonna, what are the common frictions that people are going to come up against, what should they find easy, what should they find challenging. So I'll learn from every single group that I have. I'll learn, and especially having beginners and advanced, I felt that I have to be more on my game with the advanced, straight away, and I have to make it, I have to really challenge these people that have been singled out by, fellow veterans as being a more advanced player. But then actually, I then went back to the beginners again, and we ended up running over by like another half hour, because they were so buzzy. And I was like, right, well, do you want a bit more? Let's do a bit more. Like you've got to be reactive as well. You can't just go like, well, that's it. It's time for tea and medals. You've done that, because they might be ready for a bit more, and they're paying customers at the end of the day. So you've got to put the extra effort into to make sure they walk away feeling like they've learned something and had a good time. So I'm still learning all the time. Every day's a school day, for sure. For sure.
Brilliant. Yeah.
That's what I like with the JBG events as well. It's like I think it was the first or second one we done, where you had like the actual scenario at the end, and it was just sort of like, can I be brutally honest with you, Charlie? I'd sooner carry on doing some more training than I would doing like a scenario, because I'm just enjoying it so much, and I think there's more that I could develop in my eyes. And literally they were able to like to on-site tailoring, like say, but that's absolutely fine. If you want to do that, anybody else want to do that, it's like, a few hands went up, said, right, okay, well, one of the guys can jump out. If you want to carry on doing some more room clearance drills or range stuff, then we'll sort of tailor the last bit of the afternoon to you guys. I was like, that's fucking spot on. That is, you couldn't get anywhere else really. Where it's like, oh, this is the course and that's it. There's no changing. They were really flexible and spot on.
You have to be. You really have to be. And I think the two bits of flex for me on this one last weekend was until the split, until who actually got. There was a couple of people that stuff had come up or they dropped out for whatever reason. As life has a habit of getting in the way, doesn't it? So
absolutely.
that split, I wasn't aware that split was I was going to have to deal with that, and that's just the way it was on the day. And we talked about that, doing a split for that last year at Gloucester anyway, so it wasn't a complete surprise to me. But like, I had to be ready to be like, okay, well, I now need to switch up my lesson plan, and I need to be flexible, and I need to react on the fly to these more advanced, or to these people that are perhaps at a little bit more of a starting off level. You really have to act on, like, you have to react on the fly, because at the end of the day they are paying customers. And sometimes, rightly or wrongly, people will have a different idea of the way things want to go just because they're paying for it, which at the end, the way I think, obviously if you rock up, you buy a ticket for a CQB event and then you do FIWAF, well, then they're quite within their rights, broadly speaking, to be, well, I didn't sign up for this. So you've got to make sure that the customer's happy, because otherwise they're not going to come back, or they're not going to recommend it and stuff like that. So if you can tailor to them, which they do, fantastic, because especially if there's like teams of people, or people that regularly play together, like you say, like for yourself, like that might just be, well, I want to do more of that, I'm going to find that much more useful. And if they can tailor you to it, perfect. You come away thinking you've had the VIP treatment and you've got exactly what you wanted out of the day.
Absolutely, 100%.
Yeah, definitely.
That's 100% accurate. Yeah, definitely.
Viraj Airsoft, who is on next week as well, has asked, how did you like Bellum in Sweden?
That was another hard gig. That was yeah. So
I could see the pain when you remembered that.
Yeah. That was a tricky one. So like, we were away for like a week all in all. So it was a long trip for the milsim, but it was longer. It was a longer milsim than what I'm used to doing. So we over here, the ones we do, they would start at, like, the actual kickoff would be at about midnight on the Friday. And then it would finish at about 8 or 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, something like that on the Sunday. So like I said before, like, you have to be ready for those kind of night serials, because just the way of doing an event on a weekend, you have to make the most of the night time. Otherwise, it's not you're not going to fit it all into that weekend. Bellum, on the other hand, was essentially like a day, night, a day, night, a day. So if you just wanted to spend 3 days out, which is what we did, you could do that. If you just wanted to spend the 3 nights out, you could do that as well. So highly modular, highly kind of customizable. So like, the 2 camps, like the friendly and the enemy camp, were next to each other. If you wanted to, you could walk into the enemy camp next door. Like, there was nothing stopping you doing that. Me and Charlie stuck all our stickers everywhere just to mess with them. Like, you could you could do that, and you could go. So on the one hand, it was highly competitive, and on the other hand, it was really relaxed, and it was the event you wanted it to be, really. So like, I didn't really go out at night at all. I just was like, well, I'd rather spend the days. I'd rather like rest up at night. So on the one hand, it was really realistic, and on the other hand, I was doing a day's work and then having a full night's sleep. So it was a bit weird. I felt a bit like, this perhaps seems a bit too good to be true. Hotter than I thought it was going to be. I was not dry throughout the whole event, like, because at night it was so cold, my sweaty kit wasn't drying. So I was just wet all the time, which is no fun. And then just so hot. I was like, Sweden, this is meant to be cold. Like, it was really hot. The players, I think, were I've said this before, like, they were you either met the nicest people or not the unfriendliest, because a lot of it, English was the common language, and so there was Germans, French, there was all the different Scandinavian countries. So sometimes they were speaking English and they didn't perhaps get a point across as succinctly as they would in English, or something that sounds a bit harsher in a foreign language. So there were some leery individuals there, I would say. But then conversely, like, there was such friendly people, and broadly speaking, they were all really friendly. That, like, you just got absolutely rinsed by, like, a German team, and they'd come up, because they gave us like these kill cards, and you could choose to go up to the enemy player and take that card off them. And some of them would come up and just hold their hand out, and you're like, Okay, there you go. Right, goodbye. And then others would come up and be like, "Oh, great game, great skirmish," and you'd end up having a chat with this person. They're super friendly. They've just absolutely
that's
rinsed
wicked.
you.
Yeah,
But then they were super friendly about it, and fantastically organized, because essentially it's like a big open world map, like that can be difficult to keep organized. But I think the fact that it was so free, so open world, actually was kind of the deciding factor on how well it went, because there wasn't all these scripted things for people to get wrong. It was largely just go out and these are your objectives. This is what you need to do. You either do it or you don't. It's up to you how you do it. So yeah, really, really good event. Really, really good event.
Yeah. I mean, I've been to events where there's been quite a lot of heavy scripted stuff, and it can stagnate, and like
100%.
some of the sites have been like purposefully bottlenecked to you can only traverse one corridor to get from one area A to area B, and it's just sort of like, oh, come on, really? When you can just go there? Why is this imaginary thing here?
Sure.
It's a bit daft, really. Do you know what I mean? When you're trying to carry out a milsim event or play a milsim event, and you've got to think, oh right, no, I can't go that way. Although you can clearly see there they are, that they're not there, because you've got to go that way. Which is just odd. Yeah. So when it's nice and open, free, go where you want. You've got to get from here to here. How you get there is entirely up to you. If you come across another two sections of enemy and get wiped, that's your fucking fault. Do you know what I mean? But exactly. The option's there to you.
Yeah,
so I was presuming it was quite a big site then, if it was.
Well, there's like 400 people playing, 400 or 500 people playing. I think it was big. I think it's one of those where I suppose if you saw it on a map, you probably wouldn't think it was that big. But because it was mainly FIWAF, those distances came down a lot. But I remember the very first objective we sort of tabbed out to, we were walking fairly briskly for about half an hour just to get there, and that wasn't even all the other end of the map. And
that's a fair site then.
It's a big site, yeah. And then when we did like the helicopter insertion, and although we were only in the actual helicopter for maybe like 3 minutes, when we were up there and we realised how far it actually took us, and if it wasn't for the vehicles, there are lots and lots of vehicles on it as well. If it wasn't for those, then yeah, it would have been a much tougher time. But yeah, really challenging, but like very rewarding. I'd recommend that event to anybody, 100% to anybody. And the event organisers, Marcus and
everybody else, you've got to be looking at 400 or 500 acres at least, I'd say. For what you're saying there,
yeah. Big site, yeah, big site.
Nice.
Would you go back again? Are they doing it? Is it a yearly thing or is it?
I think it's every year. I think I would. Yeah, I think it's one of those where because it definitely was a challenge. I probably wouldn't. No, I would go back. Yeah, I was going to say I wouldn't rush back, but actually I would. It was like when you think about it, for me it was a lot of travel. I had to fly from here to the UK, then we had to fly from the UK to Copenhagen, then we had to drive from Copenhagen all the way up to it's kind of like the Midlands of Sweden, if you want to look at it that way.
Right.
and then do it all again and come back. So it was pricey travel wise for me. But then when I look back on the event, it was that good. I would do it again. Yeah, I probably would.
Yeah. What was it like taking weapons over to Sweden? Did you have to do anything special for that at all?
No, so we had them laid on for us. So like they were kind enough to square that away for us because we were filming and bits and pieces like that. So again, that was some of it was the event organisers, some of it was sponsors. So actually, it would have been a lot harder work. So for the since I've been doing this now, like the content creation and the socials and stuff like that, people that perhaps know the Canary Islands and have been here on holiday and stuff like that, and have now seen there's a milsim scene here, and that's the question I get most often is like, if I want to come on one of these events, how tricky is it for me? And the answer is very. So I'm currently looking into a way that we can, perhaps talk to some of the local shops and get a certain amount of of weapons laid out for rental packages. So really all these people have to do, if you wanted to come over, if you guys wanted to come over, and you just pay your ticket, you bring your kit and in your hold luggage, the way I do when I travel, and then hopefully we have some weapons laid on for you that will enable you to do it, because otherwise travel, depending on you know, where you're going is the biggest barrier. Yeah, okay, we all like to use our own weapons, but really, you know, on things like this, you're going to have to, you know, you're going to have to put up with a rental of greater or lesser quality. Obviously, we're going to try and get the best quality that we can get. But yeah, that's certainly something I'm looking at over here for this year and next year, and
that would be wicked.
and reducing that distance down. As you know, it's a 4-hour flight, as I said at the top of the show. Like, people drive much further than that in the UK to go to places. So yeah,
is it an impossibility to take your own weapons out there, Dan, or is it just very, very hard to get them out there?
it's not impossible, but I did look into it, and it depends on the airline. So not every airline will do it. And then once you've got the correct airline, and that's a big barrier as well, because that means, well, hey, Ryanair might be half the price to fly. Well, but you know, British Airways is twice the price, but they'll let me fly. And then it was all to do with, you know, there is a lot of bureaucracy over here, and obviously they are classed as like low level firearms here. Like, we have to have like a firearms license if we don't want to get nicked using them. So
Right.
it was all to do with that. And I sort of tried to explain to the police at the airport, well, they don't have that because they're coming from somewhere else. So, you know, I'd say it's more trouble than it's worth is the honest answer.
Right. Fair enough.
But you know, but if you want to come out on the one later on this year, I think it might be November. I'm not sure. I'll have to check the calendar. But you know, if you want to come out for that, we'll make it happen. I'll try and square you away with the best that we can get hold of. That's
definitely. It's a shame you haven't got a central hub out there. Like, if you could forward them on to a store, to like an actual registered store, and then collect them when you're there, and then take them back to the store, and then get them sent back to the UK for you, sort of thing. If something like that could be put in place, you know, obviously that would remove an awful lot of the red tape and have the control there.
I think from the UK, in a sort of like post-Brexit world, the paperwork would just be a nightmare. If you were from somewhere else in Europe, then it might be easier to do. But you know, again, it's getting, you know, it might be that it's doable, but the authorities at the airport, they mainly would deal with like sporting firearms or police or military traveling with firearms, which you can obviously do, you know, but I don't think they're always that ready to you know, you might go and speak to the police and they will say, well, I don't know what that is, I've never heard of that, or you know, there might be a facility to do it, but just, you know, perhaps the people there aren't clued up. But no, we've got some good shops here, like some good stores, and there's quite a lot of different range and stuff like that of quality. So I'm hoping, you know, that we can make that happen in the future.
Do you think, Dan, with how big airsoft is now, like worldwide, do you think an awful lot of like countries, securities, airports, things like that are still very blasé to it and haven't really put the effort in to sort of understand what people want to do and what's involved with it, to be able to travel to events and games and things like that? Because obviously there's an awful lot of people that do it, and an awful lot of people that want to travel to these events, but obviously the blocker is being able to take your own kit out there with you. Do you think that more could be done to sort of like facilitate that? That's being done. That's not being done at the moment.
I think more could be done. I think it's. I think they are they're kind of blasé about the wrong stuff, really, because I travelled just with hand luggage, and I had the little wheelie case full of kit. Not obviously nothing dangerous, but it had like a holster in it and a battle belt, and it was all squad kit. And neither going or coming back, when it went through the X-ray machine, did anybody say, "What is that?" And I didn't put a padlock on it because I knew I was going to get turned out, and I thought, well, if I was on the other end of that X-ray machine, I'd want to know what that is, even though it is not dangerous. So I felt they were too blasé with that. And then, I just think that obviously there are, that, you know, there's a lot of people doing it now. And I just think that, a little bit more awareness of it and understanding that it is not a firearm. It looks like it, but it is not a firearm. And as long as it hasn't got a battery in it or a magazine or whatever, like if it's gas operated, it ain't dangerous. Follow the same rules as a firearm, by all means, but it isn't one. And let's have that in perspective. That doesn't mean put it in your hand luggage because it's not a real gun.
No, still check it into your actual hold luggage, obviously.
But you know, and you know, have a certain amount of paperwork hoops to jump through. Fine, but just it would probably be easier, if I'm being honest, if they did treat it as a firearm, because they are used to for sporting use, you know, with the trigger locks and the paperwork and licenses and stuff like that. So I actually thought if you gave people a certain amount of hoops to jump through that are reasonable, and they jump through those hoops, then it's up to that person to do the hoop jumping. Let them do it.
Yeah, for sure.
The rules are there for the dangerous version, so just scale it back for the non-dangerous version.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I don't understand what this one means, but Joe Dupe, Dan, are the black bits in bananas tarantula eggs, or are they still safe to eat, in your opinion?
I know who that is.
I'm not a medical professional. Okay. I personally don't eat bananas that have got black bits on them. So I'm just going to say, if it looks dodgy, don't eat it, and then you can't get in trouble.
There you go.
There you go.
If he doesn't read this, I shall tell him tonight at work.
Always.
Yeah, don't worry.
JBG jumps on as well.
Here we
Give
go.
me back my Talon Daysack.
He should have stole it when he had the chance, and he knows what I'm talking about. He should have stole it when he had the chance.
Has Charlie missed an opportunity to get something back?
Oh no!
Yeah.
Whoa! Let's get it. It's mine. Right, let's not give him more of a
more credit.
He could have stole it if he wanted to. He unlaced and relaced my boots the wrong way, so he could have done it then if he wanted to. But no, one will find its way to his loving embrace at some point. I'm sure he's just got to be patient.
Yeah, and then he's put Andy and Lance sort this out. No.
Dan, give him a day sack.
Yeah.
There you go.
More than enough to get off me, and he bloody knows it.
I expect he has, yeah. Is Charlie a bit of a kit whore? Is Alex as well, for that matter?
He's good. He's good with me though. To be fair, like bits and pieces, he made like a bandolier out of like the issued, or like the ammunition that comes out of the box comes in like a pre-packaged bandolier, and he sorted me out with one of those. He could have mass marketed that. Why he hasn't yet, I don't know. But no, there's a good rapport there. Like, you know, I think as long as everybody stays in a collaborative like kind of mindset, everything else just flows. And again, without harping too much about this last weekend, that was very clear, even for myself as a guest, like even them internally with JBG and their support company, like you could see everything like not just clicking into place, because I think that happened for them a long time ago, but I think actually kicking up a gear. And even as a guest, you kind of feel part of that kind of vibe as well. So I think everything, as long as it stays collaborative, it stays fun. And yeah, there's some good stuff coming from us for sure.
Cool, nice.
Yeah,
good
definitely.
to hear.
Mike's got another question. Dan, hang on, why is it? Oh, there it is. When you milsim, do you use British, Spanish, civvy, or mixed rat packs?
Right. Napoleon said that an army marches on its stomach, and there's a reason the Spanish don't get into wars, because they wouldn't be able to fight with the stuff that they give their guys and girls. It is terrible. Terrible ration. The only good thing is the breakfast, and even then it's just like biscuits and instant coffee. Really, really bad. So I will, if I can, again, because of the distance, if I can get my hands, I've got like an ammo tin downstairs of British stuff that's rapidly going out of date, but I will use
all right.
exactly. If I can use the real stuff, then I will. But then again, when I first started doing milsims out here and I didn't necessarily have access to that, I found a way of creating like a supermarket rat pack, stuff that you could go and buy in a supermarket. That was a fair approximation as to what we would be eating. So I'd say it's probably a mix. Even now, even if I had a full rat pack, I won't eat all of it anyway, even though I should. I won't eat all of a full 24-hour ration box. So I think I'm always left over with like random, like all breakfasts or all dinners and stuff like that. So I'll have to recycle them anyway and add some civilian stuff.
For sure.
I'd say it's more of a mixed. I
think we should do a challenge, Andy, between Dan and Charlie. If they've got 10 quid each, they've got to make their own civvy rat pack, and we'll judge.
I'd love to see that.
That was on in the 90s, wasn't it? Didn't you have like a fiver? Was it like Ready Steady Cook or something like that?
There you go. So we'll do Ready Steady Cook with Dan and Charlie. Ready Steady Rat Pack. There we go. There's the challenge.
That was a good video idea.
Yeah, that'd be a good. I'd watch that one. That'd be a really good.
Yeah, that'd be fun. Yeah, we'll make a note of that. We'll get that done.
Yeah.
All right, happy days. Always happy to offer content.
Yeah. Yeah. It's out there now. It's out in the public domain. So
that's it. Sorry, mate. Yeah, put you on the spot there. Do apologise.
So we got one last question because we're cracking on with time quite swiftly tonight. And it's from typical Asian Scarecrow again. What's worse, unsecure pockets with bits of your kit in them, or chicken wings?
Well, literal
So
actual
this
chicken
must be
wings.
somebody.
No,
on the
he
call.
means
Yeah,
he means chicken wings.
Yeah,
Doesn't
yeah,
Oh, I
he?
haven't put my
So
camera back on. Sorry,
I can't quite.
I'm
see
sitting
the
there going like
video,
this
so-
without a camera on.
yeah. So no, there were a few chicken wings at the prison, but yeah, luckily, I think I only had to pick them up a couple of times, so they were taking it on board. But the chicken wing does get me. It does get me. But an unsecured pocket. I think I'd rather
Ooh.
somebody cut about with a chicken wing. If it works for them, then do it. But a pocket in camp, a pouch in the field, like make sure it's closed. Yeah, for sure. Unsecured
Absolutely.
pocket is worse.
Yeah. Oh, you don't want to lose those Haribos, do you?
No, but that morale aside, like the way I sort of preach to people within the airsoft and the milsim community is all this shit costs money. It's costing you money. It's not costing me money. It's costing you money. And if you lose it, then you're either going to have to replace it or do without it. So in the real world, it's obviously, it doesn't necessarily cost you money, but it will make you less effective, which is a lot more dangerous. But in this kind of world that we're in, it's all money. Like a £60 MWS magazine, like you are going to be unhappy if you lose that.
Well, it's like me the other day when I lost my Leatherman mutt a good few months ago now, and literally stumbled across it at the bottom of a deployment bag. You know, the hard case that's on the inside, the hard base bit.
Yeah.
I picked it up. I was like, "There's something in there," and I was like, and literally, it was like a ray of light come down from the heavens into this bag.
Yeah, for sure.
And I just held it aloft and screamed, "Yes!"
I didn't lose it. Yeah. 100%.
Oh mate, I was kicking because my brother-in-law, who demobbed from the PWRR, like 14 years he'd been in, like front line, done loads of tours and that, and he gave it to me like when he demobbed as like a little present. So I was like, "Mate, fucking hell."
Yeah.
And it was like really precious, and I would just be kicking myself for months and months, thinking, "I can't believe you lost that. I cannot believe you've lost that. No way."
But you didn't.
But I didn't. I just stored it away and forgot where it was.
Safe place.
It was absolutely.
Yeah.
So that was a blessed relief to return that to its rightful place.
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
So if people want to get in contact with you at all, what's the best way to contact you if they just want like a little chat or have any questions or anything for you?
Yeah, so Instagram's probably the best place to get in contact. So it's at Hades_Airsoft_. It's there we go on screen.
There we go.
And then YouTube. That's I think since the last time we spoke, that's kind of, I wouldn't say took off because I'm still learning, but it's in a much more prominent place with what I'm doing now than it was before. So I've definitely had some. Yeah, definitely had a good year with that. It's, if you'd have told me a year ago I'd be on like nearly 2,500 subscribers on that, I would have been very surprised. Although, still lots more to do. I'm just enjoying it. I'm just having fun with it. Like I'm not trying to focus too much on the subscriber count. Just kind of enjoy what I'm doing with that. But although obviously I interact with the comments on there. If there's something you want to specifically ask, then Instagram's the best place to just send me a DM and I'll respond to that. But no, please go and check out the YouTube, because that's fast becoming probably the core of what I'm doing in a way. Like I've certainly brought the arcs onto that, and a lot of what I'm doing is focused around that, or whether it be content for that, or experiences to push out on that platform. So either of the two. Get in touch, check them out.
I got to admit, your YouTube channel has gone, like, from when we first started talking like a few years ago, has, like you said, skyrocketed, and
it's doing well, man. It's good. Some good videos in there.
And it genuinely, I enjoy sitting there and watching the videos. Like, I hate watching us. I genuinely hate watching myself, but like genuinely, like I'll sit there and what I tend to do is I tend to leave it until you got like 3 or 4.
Yeah, okay.
And then I'll sit there and then I'll have a little bit of a
sesh.
Have a bit of a sesh. Sitting in the bath with my feet up.
Beautiful. Look at that.
Yeah.
What a fucking image.
I don't care where you watch it, as long as you watch it. No, it's gone from a place of like kind of curiosity as to like, and what is this something that I could do as to something to really again be better at, and the more I become familiar with the editing and the production and the shoot, there's so many different things to worry about at the same time. And luckily I've got people on this side of the pond that will come and help me film, because I'm not the least of what I do is film. I know what I want to see because when I'm sat there editing, but I'm always in front of that camera. And then obviously conversely in the UK, on these sorts of things I have to depend on people there, obviously like Dan, Caitlin, everybody at the event this time round. There's 300 gigs of content from this one last weekend to get through. So some really interesting stuff coming from there. Because that Dan on the camera, like he absolutely, as a videographer, I mean, as a photographer, both Dan and Caitlin are very good, but I think Dan's perhaps missing a trick as a videographer, if I'm being honest, because it was very impressive from what I've seen. But so like it's the product, it's getting the idea of, so you joked about it briefly earlier, like the idea is half of the battle. There is like an idea for a good bit of content. Then it's so some of like the review videos that I do, they need 3 days of shooting. That needs the unboxing in the garage, it needs the range test, and then it needs a game. That's 3 videos in one. Luckily they're the most successful videos that I've had, because they're the hardest that have they're the hardest to work up, but they're also, I don't want to sort of like paint myself into that corner. I want to carry on doing the interview side of life. I get why you guys do it, because it is an interesting side of it. So the podcast interview. So when I've got a few more under my belt, I'd love to have you guys on at some point, either in person or remotely. So we'll try and work that out.
That'd be cool, man. Definitely.
And then like the kind of more like game, we'll call it gameplay videos, but like I don't want to just do, nothing wrong with them, but I don't just want to do like kill compilations. Like I think there's people out there doing a much better job at that than me. For me to try and get as good as that would take time. And
I didn't like doing it. I tried filming when I was playing years ago, and I just couldn't get on with it. I just didn't like the thought of it, that I'm recording what I'm doing right now, and I ended up not wanting to. I was more worried about getting a film of something else happening than what I was actually paying attention to what I was doing. And I was just like, I'm getting rid of
that for sure.
Getting rid of that. I'm sick of that. I just like doing the kit videos and stuff. That's what I prefer.
Yeah, exactly.
But like you said, with like learning, I was like, a lot of the stuff that I do, which I haven't done for ages, which I must do. I picked a lot of that from Silly Gilly, helping him out a couple of times with some of his bits. And that's literally it, But it's just like a learning process, isn't it, as you're going along?
Yeah, so such a learning curve, and it has been a real challenge. And then the reward of it as well, like when you see a video do well, and like I'm still getting used to like that. There, Andy's saying like he likes to watch them in a bit of a binge and stuff like that. Like I need to get quicker, because I take such an amount of time. Not getting it perfect, because we don't ever get anything perfect, but getting it as good as it possibly can. Like I certainly this year want to try and really speed up that process and get one a month, something like that, one every sort of 6 weeks, something like that. But certainly one ideal. A month would be ideal. But and then people coming up and saying on this course there was a guy from Brazil says there's people watching you in Brazil, and I was like, well, what, really? That for some reason that took me back massively. And people saying, oh yeah, I'm used to seeing you, it's strange seeing you in person, I'm used to seeing you on a screen. Because although like I'm making the videos, yes, it's a hobby and I enjoy doing it, there is a side of it where it's a metric. I want them to be seen. I wouldn't be doing it if I didn't want them to be seen. But then it's weird when people come and say that they're watching them. I haven't quite got that figured out myself yet, and I don't understand why that is. It seems fairly obvious that would be the point of this.
No, it's the same for us. I think like when people come up to us and say, "Oh, it was a good episode last night," you kind of go, "Oh, yeah, okay."
Cheers, mate. Nice one.
You watched it.
It's like my bivvy bag shelter when I had that zip, and that's my bivvy bag, and that literally sort of like for little old me, that sort of took off, and I was just like, "Oh my god,
that's
all this
really well. I really
engagement I'm getting."
I forwarded that to people for that one as a real good example, because everybody always harping on about tents and stuff like that. I was like, no. This guy's got the right idea here. This is a way, I'm used to just tucking the bit over my head and getting on with it. But that was a nice little, that bit of tailoring was fantastic.
It's just that. I mean, I'm not saying that I think I've used it twice as I intended it to be made. But then it's nice to be able to just use it as a BV bag. But then I've got the option, if we are sort of hunkered down for a good amount of time, I can actually sort of erect a little bit of a shelter, have a little bit more. Head face room, if you know, do you know what I mean? So it was good fun doing it. I enjoyed doing it. So
that's
what it's all about.
Let me know how much, and I'll send you a bivvy bag, and you can sort me one out.
No worries.
There you go.
Send it over to me, mate. I'll do you one for you. No worries.
Sweet.
So Obviously, thanks very much, Dan, for coming on.
Pleasure. Thank you for having me.
We won't leave it as long as we did last time. If you want to get in contact with Dan or ourselves, if you can't remember how to get in contact with Dan, you can contact us at our email address, which is nofo@hotmail.com, or our Instagram, which is November_Foxtrot_
NoFo.
Can't remember. NoFo. Or you can get in contact with us through our website, which is www.novemberfoxtrot.co.uk.
Yes.
And as I said, Dan, and everyone else for joining us tonight, thank you very much. It's been a real pleasure as always, mate.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much indeed. Yeah,
and definitely, you got to try and get over for Shift Your Wrist, mate. We'll sort it out.
Yeah, because we only have a patch, so there's no.
Daniel
Hayes, really.
The last comment is Daniel Hayes says, "I will work until 0300 if Hayes flies out for Shift Your Wrist weekend."
You're already working until 0300, and I've told you this. He already is working until 0300, and he thinks by repeating that he's not, it's suddenly going to change. So, cool.
Well, thank you very much. There you go. Well, the last comment from Mike, cracking show.
Next time.
Sorry you missed it. Yeah. We tend to close with final words now. And as you are the guest of honor, if you just have anything wise and wisdomy,
or pearls of wisdom from the
you want to pass along,
pearls of wisdom.
It's all the way over to you, mate.
I would say just have fun in what you're doing, whether it's airsoft, if it's milsim. Remember why you're doing it. Remember what got you into it to begin with. If you have a rough day at a game, at a skirmish, at an event, just remember why you're doing it. Don't let that negative experience condition you to it. It's like anything. Just be aware of what you're doing, enjoy it, and just have a fun time, because that's what you're there for. And apart from that, just be safe at what you're doing, and tailor it to yourself. If you want to get better, find a way to be better. If you're happy just having a chill time, have a chill time. It's your sport, it's your hobby. You're the one that's going to enjoy it. So make it work.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more.
Brilliant. Perfect. Thanks very much, Dan. If you enjoyed the show, please give us a thumbs up. If you want to listen to us next week with I've forgotten his name, Viraj Airsoft, hit the little bell button. We're trying to break the algorithms and stuff. We've got to try and keep up with Dan now. Any support any support you can give us will be mostly appreciated. And on that note, say goodbye, guys.
Goodbye, guys.
Bye, guys.
Ciao, Bella. See you later.
Stay NoFo. Stay Hades.
Stay NoFo, all that. Yeah, stay Hades.
All that good stuff.
Cheers, guys. Have a good evening.
Cheers. Thanks.
Have a good one.
See, Mike didn't screw it up.